Being on or after 7 o'clock, I'd like to open the Georgetown Conservation Commission meeting. We'd like to begin with 10 Brook, Meadow Lane. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and the project.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Scanlon. I'm here on behalf of William Durati at 10 Brook Meadow Lane. Having filed a notice of intent as part of a septic system upgrade.
Do we have green cards?
He gave me the green cards
Okay.
before we got going. Thank you.
The existing property, the property has an existing four-bedroom dwelling with a septic system shown here in magenta, and the leaching field is in this area right here. The system is in failure. We have some resources shown here in green. They actually go up and around and then wrap it back with the 100-foot buffer zone shown there. It is adjacent to Clough Brook, so we are in both the 100-foot buffer zone to a wetland, a bordering vegetated wetland, and within the 200-foot riverfront. What we're proposing to do is come out of the house in the same spot, go into a septic tank, a pump chamber, and into Presby leaching field, shown here in brown. The system, the leaching area is greater than 100 feet. The only thing that's within the 100 feet is a little bit of a corner of the soil replacement area. And that's primarily because we have a gas line running here in yellow, and then the water line shown up here that we had to work around. We'll open it up to any questions.
Okay.
Board of Health approved it?
They have, yeah.
There's no abutters to the project, Rachel.
So there are no abutters in the audience. Is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions?
They got as far away as possible.
They did.
No real tree damage, so
They
it's
did.
good.
And when you're doing this silt sock, everything in place, working with Steve.
Yeah, I'm showing the erosion control shown here in red to protect the,
So there's always standard conditions, installation of the silt sock, and then I'll inspect, and then
Mhm.
work with the agent in the field.
Just making sure.
Perfect.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll second it.
Shit, you have to
No.
make it.
You have to make
Oh.
it. I can't make them.
I'll make a motion to accept the septic design at 10 Meadowbrook Lane, DEP 161-0876, GCC 201902.
I can second it. Okay, it being made and seconded, I would like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? The ayes have it.
So a motion to close.
I'll entertain a motion to close 10 Brook Meadow Lane.
So I will make let's close 10 Brook Meadow Lane, DEP 161-0876, GCC 201902.
I'll second it. All in favor of closing 10
Aye.
Brook Meadow Lane?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. So moved. Motion
All set.
carries.
Thank you much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
So we're actually, we have to wait a few minutes till 7:10. I'm gonna,
Bills?
if it's okay with you, we have minutes to approve.
Sure.
So March 21st, 2019, I received no comments or feedback from the commission with any concerns.
Okay.
So just looking for a motion to approve minutes dated March 21st.
I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as read by Steve.
You can also say as moved, just to kind of be a cheat sheet here. So you can just say,
So moved.
so moved, and then someone seconds it, and away we go, especially on the simple ones like that.
Okay.
Who seconded?
So moved.
So moved.
Second it.
Okay. Skip.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And that just needs a signature from Rachel. That's the chair one. Yeah, still a few more minutes. We'll do bills, if that's okay with you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
council bills. Oh, thank you, sir. Bills for tonight, we have Camp Dennison at almost $5,000. This is for plumbing, Georgetown Building Supply, electric, water, and oil for the lodge for the past, I think, 6 months. Camp Dennison, $536 at Home Depot. This is for supplies for the bathhouse that they're doing rehab work to. $33 for FedEx. We closed on map 11, lot 11 last week.
Oh, we
This was
did?
just
Okay.
sending out the documentation to town council so they can register it and lock it in. They don't like snail mail because apparently things get lost, and when
Oh, they-
a lot of people have had to sign it, they want us to send it, and so one package just costs $30 to mail. Sorry. This is a money transfer related to map 11, lot 11. The town, whenever we get legal bills, so we had to hire a lawyer, town lawyer, to do the closing and handle some of the issues associated with buying a parcel of land. The town just pays that. We have to reimburse that money from our accounts, so this is CPC money for $5,553. And that is it.
What about improving the carbon footprint up there and getting them a new refrigerator? Can you do that?
Absolutely. Let me talk to them. You mentioned that before,
Mhm.
and I completely forgot about it. I just need a motion to pay this, and I'll write a note about the refrigerator.
I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So typically you leave the top slot for the chair on it. So you just sign this anywhere you want, and there's, you just kind of go down the line and just until you run out of things to sign. Hi, sir.
I have there both the originals as well as a copy of the originals.
Why am I not surprised? Rachel, you're all set for the next project.
It being on or after 7:10, I'd like to open up 5 Baldpate Road. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chuck Johnson. I'm a civil engineer from Hamilton, C.G. Johnson Engineering. And it's been quite a few years since I've been before this commission. And I'm here tonight for a request for determination for 5 Baldpate Road. So if you head out of Town Hall on 133 heading towards Boxford, Baldpate is on your left-hand side. There's a home at the corner, and then the first home after that on the right-hand side is this property. And then just after it is the water tower for the town. And so this is a plan that I've prepared. It's at a 1 = 10 scale. And the reason for the request for determination is that the owners, Teresa Kiley and James Hall, need to upgrade their septic system. So I'll walk you through the project. North is essentially straight up the page, and here's Baldpate Road, and 133 is about where the ceiling or past where that is. And there's a single-family home here. We have bordering vegetated wetland, which Bill Manuel has flagged, and we have the 50-foot no disturb and the 100-foot buffer zone here. And the existing septic system, the building sewer pipe comes right out here to a septic tank and then a couple of leaching trenches. And what we've done is we've done soil testing in this area here. And the septic system consists of a building sewer pipe to a septic tank and pump vault, and then a secondary treatment unit, and then a leaching area, which is called a bottomless sand filter, which when you see when it's all finished, it's essentially, it's a sandbox with a special sand, and what you see on the top is pea gravel. So you'll see an interlocking concrete block wall, and you'll see pea gravel. I designed the first of this type of system in Massachusetts in 2005, got approval, and since then I've done about 45 of them. And what happens is by the time the wastewater goes from the house into that leaching area, it's about 95% cleaner than when it started. So, for purposes of why we're here tonight before you, is that you see this little triangle here, that is the work that's proposed within your buffer zone. So it's really just partially pumping out and removing an existing septic tank, a little bit is in the buffer zone, and then replacing a portion of the building sewer pipe. And we do have straw wattle proposed, so it's just this little corner that's within your jurisdiction.
Yeah, but in the end, that's just to remove the existing. In the end, it will be just a pipe that's within that buffer zone, correct? Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that, of course, everything will be underground, and
Yeah.
we're not planning to change the elevations or anything like that. Just basically loam and seed whatever disturbed area is within the buffer zone.
Now, did you mention if it was in failure or not? I didn't hear that.
It is it's a
It's
failed
on failure.
system, yeah. They're in the process of wanting to sell their home,
Okay.
so they had a Title V inspection done, which failed. And so asked for me to do soil testing and a design. We have met with the Board of Health, and they've approved, I showed them this particular plan, and the Board of Health has approved of the variances. And subject to your approval, I'll then finalize the design plan and submit that to Deb Rogers with the Board of Health and get that approved.
Okay, do we have the green cards for this as well? Okay. Are there any questions, any discussion? Are there any abutters in the audience for this particular? Nope, okay.
So with RDAs, you're actually issuing what's called a negative determination, which is a little bit counterintuitive. So the last one was a notice of intent, where you're granting an order of conditions.
Yeah.
This is, so what you're doing is you're approving the project with a negative determination.
To the wetland line, or just.
Your ruling is a negative determination.
Okay.
It's not a very eloquent,
Okay,
motion, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it is.
okay. You want me to motion that?
I'll entertain a motion.
So I'd like to make motion to accept the septic design at 5 Baldpate Road, GCC 2019-04, RDA with a negative determination.
I can second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Motion to close.
I would like to make a motion to close 5 Baldpate Road.
You'll entertain one.
I will entertain one, sorry, I will
So
entertain
moved.
one.
You can do that.
And we just need a second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay. So you guys are going too fast, and we're 5 minutes till the next hearing.
Okay.
But I can send around a few things for you to sign, like usual.
Here it is.
Oh, thank you very much. This is the determination of applicability that you just voted on.
You sign at the bottom.
Yes. Technically, you can sign anyway, but we like to leave one open for the chairperson. This is the order of conditions for 10 Brook Meadow. This is the notice of intent that you just approved at the last. There's 2 documents, 2 places to sign.
Okay. So up here.
Perfect. This is a certification of compliance on 134 Central Street. This is a septic system that you approved in the fall. Again, 2 documents, 2 places to sign.
That one I had to abstain from.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Signing Administrative Act.
Okay.
This is a certification of compliance on 541 North Street, also a septic system that you approved, I believe, last year, might have been the year before. 2 documents. This is an extension permit for the order of conditions for the Rock Pond Association. They got approval for dealing with the invasive weed 3 years ago. They got a state grant to help with that. They got CPC money to help with that.
Mhm.
Some additional funding came in from the state towards the end of the program, and they just like to finish up with doing some hand pulling. So they have, I think, $5,000, but the permit is due to expire. So our permits are good for 3 years, and you can request an extension up to 3 years, actually twice, but typically we only do it once. And so this is pretty much a town project that we're working with a association on. So very rarely is there a reason not to grant them, but it's kind of a paper pushing exercise. So just one document, one spot to sign. Couple minutes, Rachel, sorry.
1 minute. What's the time?
Yeah, so 7:18.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I'd love to ask for a motion to close, but.
No, that is not happening.
Can't hear you.
What project are you here for?
You have a 7:20 meeting.
One more minute. You're up next.
Not me.
Hang on.
If you would speak up a little, I'd appreciate it.
You've been here for years.
Is that clock fast?
It is by 2 minutes.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Okay, it being on or after 7:20, I'd like to open up a hearing for 2 Oregon Street, an RDA. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourselves and
Yep.
explain your project.
I got the green cards already.
Okay, you have the green cards? Okay.
So we are hoping to put a 18-foot round above ground pool in our
Just
yard.
Introduce yourself first.
I'm
so we know-
sorry.
That's okay.
Carrie Rubino,
Okay.
one of the homeowners, my husband Ben.
Ben Rubino.
Go ahead.
Okay. Never done this before. So we're proposing or hoping to put an 18-foot round above ground pool in our backyard. And we are trying to work within our jurisdiction, your jurisdiction.
So in the pack of the RDA, there's, it's not a big kind of formal plan. We just marked up an existing plan that we were able to find. And for a smaller, simpler project like this, the commission does allow not having really expensive formal plans. And so working with them on this for the past month or so, we were able to draw in the pool being roughly 88 feet from the resources where 75 is required. So it meets the regulations. It's on lawn. It's kind of a very disturbed area to begin with, which is why I recommended the RDA, just because it's a pretty simple, straightforward project. I have no concerns. I do believe there's an abutter here. You just need to speak up for him.
Okay, I just have a question. As far as grading goes, is this going to be chlorinated water? Is this going to be?
Salt.
Okay, so as far as the grading goes,
Mhm.
you've been there, you've walked the site. Is
It's
it-
very flat.
It's very flat? Okay. Just in case a leak
Yeah.
were to happen.
And it's nice, I mean, if it was 40, 50 feet, we might be more concerned about the type of water
Mhm.
that, and the purification system, but given the distance is so far away,
Okay.
I'm not concerned about anything at this point.
There are abutters. Would you like to make a comment?
Now, do you have to put a fence up
Can-
around that?
Can you identify
you
yourself?
introduce
I'm sorry.
yourself?
Can you identify?
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
You guys need to really speak up again. It's some kind of a system where you can
I
hear.
haven't heard a word you've said.
Okay, can you introduce yourself, just so we,
I'm Kathy Zabel. It's my father, Pete Zabel.
okay? And your address, just so we have it for the record?
214 North Street,
Okay.
and I guess we a bunch of, I've never seen you before.
Yeah.
Hi.
All I know is their name is Benjamin and Carrie.
That's
Okay,
us.
so,
If I hadn't had the notice, I wouldn't know them.
I just wanted to meet you.
Oh, hi.
Is there a fence that goes around it? Because if we have animals, you know, that break loose
You know,
sometimes.
you live right next to a farm.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna be putting up a fence across the front yard, or just kind of by the driveway. I hadn't really thought much about all the way in the back by the wetlands. I didn't really wanna do much back there.
I mean, it's an above-ground pool, correct?
Yeah.
It's
So-
at least 4 feet high, right? I think they,
Yes, yeah.
so that's, I think that's the state regulation, is at least 4 feet high, you don't,
So I don't think
You
you need to
don't use
worry
a
about
fence
that.
like
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the cows might think it's a watering trough or something.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
I think the pool was
54 inches.
54
Yeah.
inches tall.
Okay, yeah.
So it's pretty tall.
Okay.
We'd have to.
That was one of my main questions, and it's just for safety's sake.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure.
Yes.
Mostly.
Mhm.
But, and if you have a party, I'll make a pasta salad.
All right.
Are those all the above?
We also have, you know, business, you know, stuff that goes on back there. You try not to infringe on your, you know, whatever goes back there. Just let us know what's
No,
going on. I mean,
Sure.
Sure.
You know, you don't hear us very often, but we are back there.
I've always wondered what's back there, so
Uh,
we see the
30
signs from the
acres of
street.
heaven.
What's that?
30 acres of heaven.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
We own all the way to Parker River Landing.
so. But no, that was my main concern was, you know, that some of the animals might get into your pool, you know, that you, I mean, we have fencing up too, but
Mhm.
just to double it
Sure.
up. So,
Is there any discussion amongst the commission?
No.
Any concerns? No.
So again, it's the same, to issue a negative determination.
I will entertain a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the, 18-foot above-ground pool at 2 Oregon Street, GCC 2019-03, RDA with a negative determination.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed, all abstaining, motion carries.
And a motion to close.
I would entertain a motion to close to Oregon Street.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, let's close to Oregon Street, GCC 2019-03, RDA with negative determination.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining, motion carries.
So you guys are all set. I'll reach out to you Monday, Tuesday next week to come pick up the paperwork.
Okay.
You can kind of go ahead and start scheduling and. You
Beautiful.
got a yes. Okay. Anything that just happened, that was a yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
We grant all these pools and never get invited.
I know.
That's the way it's supposed to be. We have a few minutes. I'm gonna pass around the determination you guys just issued. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
And they need each other in here.
No relation. Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna have a 10-minute lag in a little bit. The continuations we have. I'll jump in real quick, just as an update. We did close on that map 11, lot 11, so it's off of Rosemary Lane. It's a landlocked parcel, about 7.5 acres, that we've been working on, I've been working on for almost 10 years. We got approval with CPC money to purchase it last town meeting, and we closed on it 2 Fridays ago. So that is under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, added to all the other parcels that we have. Our budget got approved and is going to town meeting, I believe, Monday.
You were being very quiet.
Sorry. So we do a department budget every year, the department head. So at the last couple of meetings, we discussed our budget. It's pretty straightforward for the most part, but that is going to town meeting on Monday. If you're ever interested or curious about the nuts and bolts of like the finances of the department. It's actually a little more complicated because we keep our own fees. Most departments have to give their fees back to the town, where we have ours internal. And so it's an extra layer of complexity. And we have Camp Dennison funding We have probably 5 or 6 accounts with the CPC as far as projects that were ongoing. So it's not necessarily straightforward.
I called you Mr. Chairman, didn't I?
You did. You called me that.
You
Chairman,
did
and
twice,
I
twice now,
apologize
twice
for
now.
that.
I'm trying really hard.
Take offense. I grew up
Saying
with
it
all
again.
boys. I answered to
Ms. Chairman.
Ms.
Ms.
Chairman. All right, Ms. Chairman. I'll take that too.
Mike, are you here for 51 West Main?
Yeah.
So we have our 2:30 and our 2:40 are requesting a continuation.
They,
And the next, this one is at 7:50.
what time is it?
Yeah, so we might want to at least, so we can start them later, we just can't start them earlier.
Right.
So if we want to maybe go off air for 10, or maybe 10 minutes, just kind of,
Okay, would
because we have nothing really to discuss, we can just, you know,
Would
you
that
said,
I don't think that requires a motion.
it doesn't, you just have to let people know. You know,
Okay.
so we're going to take a 10-minute break, we'll reconvene in 10 minutes, let's go off air for 10 minutes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go off air for about 10 minutes for a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back on in approximately 10 minutes. Welcome back to the conservation meeting in Georgetown, Massachusetts. It being on or after 7:30, I would like to open up 203 East Main Street. And I believe they are asking for a continuation. Is that correct?
Correct. Looking to go to June 20th at 7 o'clock.
I will entertain a motion.
Mrs. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue to 203 East Main Street, DEP 161-0857, GCC 2018-05, to June 20th at 7 o'clock.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. It being on or after 7:40, I would like to open up 59 Warren Street, and I believe that is also a continuation.
Correct. So this has been ongoing for a while. Just to give kind of a quick update, the sticking point is not having a good delineation of the wetlands out there, and there's a wet meadow, and we're not really sure kind of where it stops and starts. And as they're proposing to clear this area and till it, it's really important to know exactly where it is. They're kind of up and coming farm. They don't have a lot of money. They're trying to do it on the cheap. So they've reached out and joined some farm bureaus, and they have gotten their Chapter 61 status with the town. But neither one of those really come with money. It's just more of a status that you're now a farm. So they're still looking for someone to delineate it. I don't know where that's going to go, because we're not having very good luck. When they came to the meeting, a lot of commissioners got some feedback. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? We have not been able to find anyone that will fund what we're looking for. We can talk, potentially about options of what we can do, but I don't see any options. I'm encouraging them to continue to look for the funds to do it. If not, they can withdraw without prejudice and maybe move the field somewhere else on property that's out of our jurisdiction, which there are areas to do that. So as like we were talking about earlier, if you can, do it out of our jurisdiction. If you have to, then justify why.
I think they said they could do that, but they had huge pine trees, and taking even just one pine tree down is $1,000.
Correct.
So it's all,
So.
and then a root, it's expensive money to take down.
So again, we don't want to get too much into it because they're not here
Oh, yeah,
for the
yeah.
discussion. I just want to get roughly where we are. And again, I'm still working with them, trying to resolve the issues, but it is what it is. So we're looking to continue that one to July 18th, also at 7 o'clock, please.
I will entertain a motion to continue 59 Warren Street to July 18th.
So I'll make a motion to continue 59 Warren Street, DEP 161-0859, GCC 2018-04 to July 20th at what time?
7 o'clock, please.
No, we just did 7 o'clock.
It's July 18th.
Oh,
The
July
last one was
18th,
June.
I'm sorry, July 18th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
Sure, can I make a
And
motion to
to-
close?
Nope.
Oh, we
No,
have to
you
close.
don't
Oh,
need to
okay,
close
okay.
it.
You close when you approve a
Excellent.
project, not continue.
And we still have
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yes. Anything else that we need to discuss? Any business? Interesting articles?
Nothing.
Nothing.
We're definitely getting into our busy season. I have 4 new applications for next month. Yeah, I gave my other things going on in town for the last 5-minute break that we had.
Now you can do a tap dance routine for the next 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Camp Dennison has the gentleman that's been running that workshop in the woods camp has been going very, very well, and he's actually expanded down there. So we're working with town council on a contract with him for 3 years versus yearly.
Mhm.
So right now, every year, the commission signs a contract allowing a business to come in and use Camp Dennison for these programs. He teaches a lot of nature-oriented, really great programs, and it's just a really good fit. So we're trying to encourage him he wants to do more, and our contracts are very basic. We're trying to come up with like a 3-year contract. And so right now, his lawyer and our lawyers, town council, are working on a 3-year contract. He's also leasing one of the buildings to store his equipment. Very minimal area, but it's good extra money for the Camp Dennison to bring in. So Camp Dennison is mostly self-funding, so they have all these events and weddings that pay for the day-to-day operations. when there's a larger activity, they go for CPC money, so like a roof or a road or major capital
Mm.
stuff. But the day-to-day operations, they're all self-funding,
Mm.
and there's a lot more interest, a lot more weddings.
How does that work with
great.
that shared, with Boxford? How- Right?
The
This-
pond?
okay,
So-
Yeah, the pond, some of the pond is,
So it's Baldpate Pond.
yeah.
Most of it's in Boxford. We have
Most
a
of
very
it.
small. There was actually a land swap when we purchased Camp Dennison. They actually swapped boundaries a little bit and had placed new markers. Whenever that was, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Come on, you guys must have questions for me. I only see you once a month. One more minute. People watching this at home are going to turn their volume up. Kind of confused.
Mm-hmm. Well, can't start it until the time, so. Can you just double check on your phone?
Yeah, no, it's no matter way.
Still a minute? You could explain that process. You could say that we have to wait to start it until the time.
You just did.
Okay, explain it. Is that?
Yep.
Okay. It being on or after 7:50, I would like to open up 51 West Main Street. If you'd like to come forward, introduce yourself, and an overview of the project since it's. Hi.
My name is Nancy McCann, and I just want to check, do I have 4 voting members here tonight? Okay. Thank you. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Michael DeRosa from DeRosa Environmental. Also with me is John Colantoni, who is the project applicant, who has just come in. And Thad Barry, I believe our project engineer, will be arriving shortly as well. I'll just give you a quick overview of the project generally, and then Mike DeRosa will take you through the notice of intent. So this is a project located at 51 West Main Street. It's about 1.75 acres of land. You'll know this site as the Settlers Antique property. And the applicant has recently purchased this property. And this project itself is a preservation and a restoration project. Preservation in that we are preserving the antique structure that's located outside of your jurisdiction, but along Main Street, and the applicant has worked for about a year with the Historic Commission in Georgetown to develop a plan for the restoration of that historic building, and it will be used for commercial purposes as it has been for many years. There is an existing addition to the Settlers building that you're probably familiar with. That's being removed, and a smaller addition is being put on the back of the Settlers building so that we'll have the existing historic structure, a little addition on the back, and that will be the commercial portion of the building. Then the second part of the project is a restoration of what has really become an eyesore in the back of the property. It's a large area. There has been a lot of misuse and abuse of that property over the years. And this project very much involves the restoration and remediation of that area. And part of that is cleaning up the buffer zone and the wetland area that's located back there, and doing restoration of that area and the construction of 7 townhouse units to make this all economically possible to do the project. So that's what it involves: commercial development in the front with preservation, restoration and remediation in the back with the development of 7 townhouse units. I mentioned the Historic Commission has given us a favorable letter of recommendation, as has the Economic Development Committee. We have already appeared before the Board of Appeals, and we have received all of the zoning relief that we need for this project. We have filed with the Planning Board for site plan approval. That project has gone out for peer review and will be appearing with the planning board at the beginning of May 9th, I believe. We think ultimately the project is going to end up with a better site, a healthier site, a cleaner site, and certainly one that is far more attractive than what we have now. And the wetland buffer will be improved by the project, which is what you're all about. So, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Mike DeRosa, DeRosa Environmental. We prepared the notice of intent on behalf of John Colantoni for the project. I've already given Steve the certified abutter notifications, as well as we got a file number from DEP as well. So I thought I'd start off with just some photos of the site. I know the commission's going to want to do a site walk, and we encourage it so you can actually see what's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the back of the property, and it's really degraded. It's been, I think, abused is not an understatement. The site has just been a stockpile of debris from the former owner. A lot of it is gravel, which is all appears on the site plans, which I'll be talking about, but it's just piles and piles of stuff, just solid waste. We looked at historic aerials, and looked at how the site was being utilized from 2008, and they go back further, but it's really, this is that ponded area in the back, and as part of the ANRAD that we filed, the ORAD, under the town bylaw, this is presumed to be a vernal pool. That said, we've got, this has all been managed as lawn. This is 2008, 2010. This has all been degraded. This is all gravel. 2014, this is again all, you can see the condition of this pond is just covered in algae, and I went out there the other day and looked, and we'll see it when we do the site walk, but it's just lots of total suspended solids. It's really the lowest part in the urban center, and so it's taking all the drainage from all the roadways, all the catch basins and things like that. There's one stream that comes in from West Main this way that feeds into it. And then this again shows just sort of the mowing and the almost mismanagement of the buffer zone. So we start with a degraded site, and as Nancy said, it's a opportunity for restoration, and really it needs to be restored. That's one thing that our company focuses on, is ecological restoration, and this wetland adjacent water body could use it. The buffer zone, as we all know, is so important to cleansing the runoff water and pre-treating it, and right now there's nothing. It's just going into this pond. So this is sort of the project elements plan, which Nancy has gone through, but there's a commercial segment in front, parking, the septic system for the entire project is located in the center of the property. 7 proposed attached residential units. This is all paved. The drainage, basically the dividing line is in here, so this goes to West Main, and then everything else comes to the back. Right now, everything goes to the back, but there's no treatment. So what we've done, and what Thad Berry, the site engineer, has done, is taken all the impervious surfaces, roof areas, and parking, goes through a series of deep sump catch basins, which then collect that water. The sediment settles out of that, flows into this first best management practices, which is going to have a forebay to get the additional sediment out, and then this is sort of a constructed wet basin. which connects to this larger constructed wet basin. These are both planted out with wetland plant material, sedges, rushes, things that process runoff from impervious surfaces, oil and grease, metals, things that you'd find on parking lot runoff. And then it all flows through here. This essentially is set level, so it acts as a level spreader, so the water just sheet flows out across the 50-foot buffer strip to the wetland. Essentially what we've got, so we've got wetland line here, which was approved under the ORAD. This is that intermittent stream that flows from downtown. This is all Japanese knotweed, which is also proposed to be removed and restored and replanted with natives. Invasive species are another big thing that we're involved with. You mentioned the MACC. There's an article I wrote in there, this newsletter, and we also spoke at the spring annual conference on it. So this is a classic site. The work, because the pond is presumed to be a vernal pool, it has the 100-foot buffer zone. The bylaw establishes or excludes areas that are either lawn or garden areas or previously degraded areas, which we would argue this is. So we actually make a request for an exception for the regulations to reduce it from 100 feet no disturb to 75, or 75 limited disturbance. We stay completely out of the 50, except for the bioretention area here, which is in a degraded spot, which I'll talk about in a second. This area of building, which is in the 50 to 75, is also within an existing gravel area. It's degraded, it's previously developed. And then these others, this section up here, which I'll talk about on another figure, is the area that we're asking for relief from the commission. And the bylaw allows the commission to, gives the commission a lot of power as far as using their discretion to allow things to happen in the buffer zone. We end up with, just in the 0 to 50 feet, we have 17,000 square feet of restoration in this area here alone. We've got the best management practices, which is the bioretention and 2 basins there.
Wait, so you mean, so your rooftop runoff is going to flow into that
Yes.
drain down at the bottom?
Yep.
Okay.
So the roof runoff and the pavement.
Yeah.
And this is again all vegetated with wetland and facultative species, so they'll be able to process that.
Right. So the people living in there, so that they can't get back. They can see that pond. Can they get back there? Because look what people did to it before. So how do you know that people moving in are going to, respect that pond and keep it clean?
Well, this will be under a operation and maintenance plan, so that's all going to be managed that way. So these are drainage structures that will have an operation and maintenance plan under the stormwater management program. So these have to be maintained by the property management group.
No, but so can the people walk down there directly to the pond? Can they get back, walk right back there?
I don't think we have any sort of fencing or anything at this point in time to keep them from that. But we can certainly talk about something like that. Let me go through, I have 2 more boards. This just shows the areas that are previously developed. So the previously developed areas are in this red color, which includes all of this here. Which is all gravel, pavement, and so on. This is the 0 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 100, and these are the buildings that are within the 75 to 100 that we asked for the waiver for. This area down here is all either pavement or gravel, so it's all been degraded. I think that's all I need to say there. And then the restoration plan includes everything, including the wetlands. So the wetland has sort of been mowed and repaired. There's stuff piled in there as well. So that's all gonna be cleaned up as part of this restoration. We have wetland plantings, mostly shrubs, including winterberry, elderberry, swamp azalea, sweet pepper bush, spice bush. These are all wetland adapted species that'll do well. There's 30, 30 and 50, so 80 shrubs there. They're all 3-gallon, 5-gallon, so they're substantial shrubs going in. We have this meadow area, which is going to be the 0 to 50 foot. We're managing as sort of a meadow area that's going to be for pollinators and for filtering the runoff from the system. And we've got everything from purple coneflower, butterfly weed, bee balm, black-eyed Susan, Joe Pye weed, smooth goldenrod, blue vervain, New England aster, and New England lupine. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 1,000 plants there. And then woolgrass, soft rush, blunt spike grass, and path rush. These are largely the plants within the basin, because they can take inundation and then dry periods, and they will be there to process the runoff. So in the end, I think we end up with a far better situation than the existing condition. The pond is going to benefit. I was out there, forget, what's today, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. And it's just lots of suspended solids. There's no movement. Didn't hear any frogs. No evidence of egg masses yet. Still a little early. But not a lot of activity. So I think that pond will benefit from this project in a very significant way, as well as downtown. And like Nancy said, the Economic Development Group's very excited about it. And ZBA approved all the requests that the project needs to go forward.
No, we haven't scheduled a third-party review yet.
You have to authorize me to do that, so that will be one of the first things I'll ask you to vote on.
Okay.
Yeah, third-party review and site walk will be scheduled tonight.
And
So-
to wait on the site walk till after the third-party review.
That's fine.
So
Yeah.
we typically will vote tonight on the third-party, authorizing me to get that going, and then at the next meeting, we can have a better idea when to schedule the meeting.
Perfect.
So,
Did you have a question?
No, so in one of the first few maps that you put up, the last,
Yep.
there was another pond down, very small pond, down further.
Is it
Which
part,
one
is
was
it
it?
part of the stormwater?
I don't know.
Oh,
Just
this
had a
one.
question on the, yeah.
This one here?
Nope, it was no, it was one of the earlier ones, not the detail.
The photos?
Yes, the last one that you put up.
The GPS?
Yep.
Which one?
The
It was the
maps.
last big map that you put up.
This one? This one?
No, I think it was the
No.
photo. The photos
Oh,
with the 4 on it.
Yeah. Oh. This one? That one?
Yeah, so see that, is that what is that blue up in the top right?
Almost looks like a swimming
I
pool.
think it's a pool.
Swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
A very clean
But it
pond
could-
or a
but yeah.
swimming
Oh,
pool.
it's- okay.
Good eye,
I
though.
just
Good eye.
I just saw
That
that
is a
quick.
good eye.
Actually, I didn't. I saw it down in the bottom
Yeah,
one there,
here.
and I thought, okay,
Yeah, this looks more natural.
okay, yeah,
That's
There's a
impressive.
boat ground one here. There's a lot of pools.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will there be any soil sampling where the debris is now?
Nothing's planned at this point. We'll probably augment the soil when we're actually doing the plantings. It's pretty gravelly. It's not, as we get closer to the pond, the soil gets better. Once we get into the wetland, I think it was just too wet for them to actually put any, mess around there too much. So the organic soil is pretty good here, so the wetland plantings will be fine. But we may wanna augment this 0 to 50 foot just to get some good
Right,
growing
right,
media going.
yeah.
And it's compacted, so we're gonna need to.
Were you asking about kind of gardening practices or potential for contamination?
Contamination.
Okay, that's what I thought you were. I
Yeah,
think the
that-
question was more related to that.
That's why I was just asking John when he purchased the property. There was a site analysis done at that time that was used obviously by the lender. So the
Mhm.
site has been looked at historically.
Can you give us a
Okay.
copy of that? Thank you. Other question I had is, as far as the invasive species management,
Yes.
do you have permission from abutters to go off property? Because the majority of the invasives in that property are not on this subject property.
They're.
When you look at the limited, like the main active area we're talking about, most of the invasives actually start off property.
It's right here, yeah.
So
And
I-
that's a critical pretty critical spot.
So I guess the question is, are you proposing to just do on-property invasive species management? Because that doesn't get as much kind of mitigation quality effect. I mean, that's a
Most
ma-
of the knotweeds off-site.
Yeah, I mean, the below section you're just pointing to is one of the largest patches I've seen in Georgetown. And none of it's on property. So
Yeah.
are you proposing to talk to the abutters about working on that, or is it just not part of this proposal?
We haven't had direct conversations with them yet, unless you or John has, the neighbor, for that knotweed.
And even in the-
Above
even in
my
the back.
pay grade on
Yeah,
the type
yeah.
plants to
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
so,
move
I
it
mean,
up.
the
It's not part
both.
of the scope at this point.
That was the question. I mean, all edges has invasives. And if you go and cut the roots right on the property line, you might as well not bother touching.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'd like to open it up to abutters. Well, I see a lot of people out there. I'm assuming you're all abutters. Does anybody have any comments or concerns? And if you do, could you come and introduce yourselves and
Name and address.
address?
Yeah, I'm David Sheehan, I'm with at 13 Prospect Street.
Okay.
One question I have concerning, you're talking about the land down there being gravel, and you have a field down there. What it is, the previous owners had filled in that entire area down there. Probably 25 or 30 feet of the wetlands were illegally filled in,
Mhm.
and there were numerous complaints. I mean, many phone calls to the town, no one did a thing about it. They just continued to let them fill it in, and I'm wondering how you established the boundaries for the wetlands down there. Because they should be, in my opinion, looking at it from 25 or 30 years ago,
Mhm.
they should be pushed back at least 25 to 50 feet to the original boundaries of the wetlands going back. And as far as your question about the plantings around it and the cleanup, my mom owns the entire pond down back there, or 75% of it.
Some of the trash is there too, right?
And the trash, it's on our property down there. You're talking remediation, is remediation gonna be for the entire property, or the debris that has been pushed from the previous owners onto our property? And really, stormwater, I had a couple questions about that, and I think you did a good job answering that. That's gonna be taken care of. But again, there are things that have been buried down back there too. When you're talking about remediation, there are people that are well aware that a lot of debris, logs, wood, has been buried underneath that when it was filled back there. There are just things that really need to be addressed before you continue.
Okay, well, Jillian,
And
Look into
they
that.
wrote them down too, so they can respond to that in their
Yeah.
documentation.
okay,
Yeah,
it's a
we're
third-party
scribbling.
review.
Thank you very much.
We all are scribbling, hopefully it's the same thing, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I
Yes?
mean, we've watched it being buried for 25 years. I mean, watch it being plowed. I mean, everything buried and pushed way into the pond back there.
Thank you.
I just want to say, my name is Tricia Krupnick. This is my husband Stu. We live next door at 55 West Main Street. And I just have more of a comment. There's a lot of wildlife down there. The peepers are out full bore. I've seen coyotes, foxes, raccoons,
Raccoon would
there's
be, yeah.
geese, there's lots of ducks down there. I could probably go on and on.
The geese are mating down there for 3 years.
Yeah, there's hawks all over the place. I just wanna make a comment, I just think, again, people are in the townhomes, you know, what's gonna stop them from going down there?
That's kind of my concern, so if you
Getting
clean
rain
up
there,
the
so
vernal pool,
That's it.
what's to, who, you know, I'm sorry to say, I don't, you know, human nature, how is that going to,
We
what's
often,
to prevent?
we often set that limit of work, no cut stone bounds that are marked every 30 feet with a marker saying
Yeah,
do
but
not
so
disturb.
that the pond doesn't get trashed again.
Yeah, so it's, that good fence makes good neighbors. I think they'll have an operation plan to prevent that. And also, we would require them to put a limit of work boundary set up. And again, that doesn't physically stop them from doing something, but it sets a nice clear line. So when I do an inspection once a year, I can be like, okay, you know, you're mowing around that and you're not supposed to be, or you have a park bench, or you have activity. That's typically how we'd resolve those issues in a good O&M plan. But like, they could put those markers on it. Typically, you'd see that at the 50-foot boundary the entire way around. And it would really delineate where people can kind of create
They
and push in.
fence the vernal pool, or?
I mean, you could create a fence line only on their property.
Don't necessarily want to do that either.
Right, because then animals.
Wildlife can't.
Well,
go
you would
back
do
into
it
that.
closer to the stormwater. You wouldn't do it at the vernal pool. You'd do it right at, so where I'm proposing that 50-foot line of no cut, no disturb markers, that would be where you kind of set that line. So, I mean, the whole thing's gonna be so vegetated. I'd be nervous about putting 2 fixed fence down to the ground because you're gonna prevent some movement. Even the stormwater has some value, but again, if you wanna cut them off from hitting the road, it's a very limited spot. They'll just go around it.
You would hope that, the people who purchase or whatever could coexist with a raccoon or a fox that might. That's what I'd like to see, it's not trap these animals that all have a benefit to, that's a concern.
I think what this plan is doing is enhancing that habitat
Yeah.
over certainly what it is now. And when you're talking about a development like this where you're going to have an association of some kind that's going to be managing this property, it's a lot easier to control and to regulate than if you're talking about a single-family homeowner. Goodness knows what they're doing back there. You'll have a set of rules and regulations, and you'll have an entity on site that's going to enforce those regulations. And if there's a problem, there's one entity that gets looked to and said, here's your operation and maintenance manual. This is all part of either the condo association or however else it's going to be managed.
So we have a couple renderings showing that the stormwater
Sorry,
system.
could you just introduce?
Thad Berry, ASB Design Group.
Okay, thank you.
We have a couple of renderings showing how the stormwater management system is going to be treating the stormwater, but it's also going to become part of the final landscaping. So this will be a slope that goes down to the stormwater management system, which kind of divides the the new buildings to the meadow. So there'll be a natural vegetated stormwater system that separates the meadow and the pond from the houses. It'll be very, very visible. Another view of it would be going all the way to the other end in this area here, so it goes all the way along the back to the other side. And it begins on the front here, and this all is connected to it and going back. It'll all be part of a landscape plan that's intended to trap, treat, infiltrate stormwater runoff, but also become a part of a permanent visual barrier to prevent people from wanting to actually go out there, but just enjoy from where they are the natural vegetation and the meadow and the pond.
And I'm assuming these are to scale, so the distance shown between the design, the CAD design and the vernal pool are accurate, or are they?
It looked very close there.
Asking you if it's to scale.
So is this to the scale or is it just concept? Because it seems like the vernal pool is really close to the back of the building.
This is based on what the renderer does is she takes the CAD file that I developed
Mhm.
and brings that in and renders off the CAD file. You gotta keep in mind that when you're doing it with CAD, it may appear close, but it's the angle of the view,
Mhm.
and that's, basically what it's gonna look like.
Okay, so it is pretty accurate. Okay.
It can't be that close. It's
John
not.
Colantoni, applicant.
Well, you're not gonna get the shading and the grading and stuff like that, but it'll look flatter.
I've used many of the colored renderings before, and I've found in all the ones that we've done, what you're viewing, you're exactly 100% right. It does look closer in the color renderings because of how the colors and the shadowing happens. The measurements that Mike is giving on the distances, those are correct, and when you see it in real life, it falls into place. The renderings don't give true,
Okay.
Accuracy.
Yeah.
accuracy, but it gives you an idea what it would look like. Also, I just want to add, one of the reasons that it was designed the way it was to create that natural border is because some of the other meetings that we were at, neighbors had concerns about the pond, and the fence idea came up, but how good is that going to look when it's not going to really be natural and stuff. So in creating this, natural border that's filtering the water, was a way to sort of put up a natural fence without having a fence. Also, we're big onto wildlife. I live in Ipswich, 9 minutes from this town hall front door, and I have 2.5 acres, and most of it's conservation land. So we're very, very much committed to the wildlife. So any wildlife that's out there in this area, we feel what we're gonna do is gonna make it better for them, obviously. Obviously, the whole place is gonna be cleaned up, and that pond is gonna be protected more when we're finished than it ever has been in at least over 50 or 60 years. So we completely respect the neighbors' concern with that, and we have definitely taken to heart and listened to them at some of the other meetings that we've been at. And it's the reason why it's taken a little bit longer to put some of the stuff together that we have before we came to conservation to put this plan together. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other? Yes?
Peter Angelopoulos, 11 Prospect Street. Just 2 points. 11 Prospect Street did not get the invite to tonight's meeting. Just found out from my neighbor. And the second one, the mosquito population is intense back there. The closer you get to the pond, if I'm in my backyard and I walk down to where my fence area is, after 7 o'clock at night, you cannot be out there. Have you taken into account that these tenants that you're gonna have back there, you're saying that they're gonna enjoy that view, they might not be able to sit out there. Is there anything that is extra going to be done about the mosquito population, or is the changing the water and getting the stagnant out of there, that should definitely help. But I didn't know if that was brought up. If you're ever there at night, spring through fall, unless you have a roaring fire going, you can't sit out there. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
If I could-
That's
Noted.
Yeah, noted.
That's part of Georgetown.
It's part of
Yeah.
But I do think the gentleman was correct, and I think Mike was shaking his head as well. Getting out some of the stagnant water and things will help the situation.
But in the same light, any spraying will be hugely detrimental to anything that might be in that vernal pool.
Mhm.
Right.
So you don't wanna.
No.
Also, that
Bat
these won't be
boxes.
rented, these are,
Bat boxes,
these are
right.
owner-occupied units, so they'll be purchased.
But bird boxes and bat boxes would definitely
Yeah.
help.
That would be
Yeah.
a great idea.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It's the mosquitoes that attract the birds.
Yeah. Tree
I just-
swallows would be great.
One thing on the,
Marlin, purple
Yeah,
martin, if you can get them.
martin. I'd say-
on the pond itself and the stagnation, the drainage, swale and ditch that actually acts to drain the pond, if you go out there, take a look at that, hasn't been maintained in years. The culvert that takes the water under the road is in really bad shape. Obviously, improving that would obviously improve the flow leaving, but you don't know how much you want to do that and impact the pond, but that's one thing that's preventing the water from flowing, properly, but.
Okay. Part of being a vernal pool too is it will dry up and shrink. So that'll handle a little bit of the mosquito population during the summer. Any other?
Just a question that a butter, I don't see the green card for that 11 prospect that they just mentioned. It is on the butter list. Is this a complete of everything, or did you just?
It's everything
highlight
we've
what got
received
back?
so far, yeah.
So you didn't go through and do like a Delta
I didn't.
document to see which ones
No,
didn't come back?
I didn't.
Disappeared, because
We received one for the first meeting,
for the
but
planning
not
board?
for this one.
Yeah, the planning board.
The
yeah.
planning board meeting, we did receive one for them.
So you are on the abutter list.
Yes.
It was sent
So
out.
it should have been sent out, yeah.
So I just didn't see it in here. Okay. In general, you guys don't go through to see what you got. You just give us what you got.
Yeah, we give you what you get.
Okay. I'll go through this and
Yeah.
see. Maybe if there's any others missing, you can just re-notify real
Yep.
quick. Thank you.
That's easy, yep.
Do you keep a list? Do you have a copy of all these?
Yep.
Should have the white slip.
Okay.
Yeah,
Would you mind-
I've got
It-
everything.
Well, he can compare it to the
Perfect.
white slip.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just let me know what you come back with.
Yep.
And if you don't have some, just re-notify.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you put into the homeowner association rules that we consider that a vernal pool and it's, and you know, how to respect it or something like that? Can you do that?
Of course, that can be put in, of course.
huge.
And I think that's part of perhaps your order of conditions, is what you would want. If you assume it's a vernal pool, what is it that you're looking for protection going forward? And that can be built into the condominium documents very easily, as well as into any maintenance would be in the operation and maintenance manual. But sure, you can put that in there.
Yes.
Yes, so the work that's gonna be done on the stagnation of the water down there, is that just gonna be done from the property that you're developing, or? And it's not gonna be anything to do with? I really
At this
don't
point,
know.
I've asked a few questions. So the trash, the invasives, the stormwater, all that's being proposed just on property. I've asked about
Right, yeah.
expanding out, and the answer was that's not what they're proposing this time. They
Okay,
could
so
propose
it's
it,
just
it
gonna-
could be asked of
everything else
them.
around it is just gonna be left the way it is?
But
and-
right now, they're not proposing anything. At least that's my understanding. They don't want to speak for you.
That would be
That's
correct.
correct.
We
Okay,
don't
I
have
don't think that's gonna
authorization to
address the
apply
problem
for
down
anybody
there,
else's
but,
property. That is very true.
Yeah, that will not address the problem of stagnation, just putting in, but
It will cut down on some of the stuff flowing into it from one edge.
from one,
It'll
from
help,
one
but it's not
portion.
gonna solve the problem.
How big is that pond?
Or a rocket.
Acre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20,000 square feet.
Actually, how far
Half an
across is
acre.
it? 50 feet, 60 feet?
Pardon me?
How big is that pond? Is it 100 feet across?
Oh, you know, from marsh area to from the marsh areas.
Open
probably
water.
250, where it's, getting soggy, but the actual open water, yeah, 150.
So hold on, there's trash on your side of the property, on your
Yes,
land?
it's been, that's been filled in down there and been pushed, and that pond has been, over the years, just been pushed and pushed and pushed further in.
Trash or just the land is filled in?
Oh, the land, yeah, the land mass is
Both.
definitely.
This trash mixed in. So
All the gravel, all the flat area down there has been bulldozed, leveled, and pushed into the pond.
the bottom right area is where the trash kind of encroaches.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right in here.
Off property.
Yeah.
To the right of the pond, to the wetlands. Probably one of the
Obviously,
worst
so you're gonna if you're not gonna have much of a market if you're not gonna clean out the whole pond, right? Even if it's on his property, are you gonna, right? I
The
wouldn't.
debris,
if
I
saw
think you're
that-
willing to do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we'll.
The debris you'll take
we'll-
care of.
We'll talk about that,
Yeah.
and look at, right now, we have no authority to go on other people's properties, right? So, we can certainly go out and look at what's there, and, the applicant can look at what's involved in picking up debris, what might be out there. But where that came from, certainly some of it, I certainly believe what the gentleman has said, that it's been pushed there over the years by the prior owners of this property. But there certainly could be other things as well. But we're making notes, we'll look into that. But for purposes of this application, we don't have the authorization to go on other people's property, and we certainly can't apply for any work on other people's property.
My name's Janice Thompson, I live at 23 Prospect. I just want to get clear on the runoff as far as parking areas and roofs. Now, all these little pools that you have is going to handle that? And the reason I'm asking is my backyard is low, and where all that knotweed is, I would assume that might go underwater unless what you're saying is you're going to handle all of that. and more or less, for lack of a better word, purify it, and then it goes into the pond?
Yeah. The non-engineering answer is that from a legal standpoint, we have to handle it. We have to handle our runoff on our site. Part of the planning board review for site plan approval is an overview of the entire stormwater management system for the entire site. That's been submitted to the planning board. It has gone out for peer review by the town's consultant, and that's ongoing now. So the planning board will have a lot of that discussion. Certainly, much of it is within your jurisdiction, and we can have that discussion here. But from a legal standpoint, we have to handle the water from our site without it going on other property. And part of handling it is the treatment of the runoff. That's the non-engineering answer. And now if Thad wants to talk about the stormwater management, if you want him to in more specific terms, that's fine.
That would be fantastic so that we can answer your concerns.
And I have one more question. You had said that the septic system is in the middle of this whole thing. Is it one septic system
I don't know.
for all the townhouses and the main house?
Yes, and again, that will be something will be discussed more at site plan review, because it's not within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission because of where it's located. It's outside of the jurisdiction. So that's why we didn't present details of that tonight. It will be discussed at the planning board, and of course, Board of Health ultimately has the approval of that, but it's one system.
Okay, and she had just wanted to know engineering as far as.
We conducted a pre and post drainage study, which is required under the stormwater regulations and the stormwater permit. And what we did is we have decreased the flow leaving our site drastically in the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm event. We've done that a number of ways. The back of these buildings, the roofs, are all going to go into an infiltration system behind here, which is required because we have to recharge the existing water table. Obviously, we're capturing everything in catch basins, passing it through these treatment systems, and they are both retention and detention ponds, which slow down the movement of the water and the time it takes to move from here to the rear property in the wetland. I want to point out that when you go to the site walk, one of the areas that you should focus in on is here. When you go there, you're going to see a lot of sediment.
I don't know if we can because that's off-site, so we'd have to
You'll
get
be
permission.
able to see it by standing right here. You'll see a lot of sediment and silt that is coming from this abutting property here and here. Our system that we've designed is going to capture all that, treat it, trap it, and then bring it through here. So not only are we improving the water quality and the stormwater runoff from our site, but we're also taking this area here, which basically flows untreated into that area. So this area will be drastically impacted in terms of the quality of stormwater runoff that impacts it. Obviously, the amount of sediment in here, we can't remove, it's off our property, but it's something you can see that will be actually improving in the future.
Okay, did that help? Okay. Are there any other questions and concerns? Seeing none. How do we want to proceed? Do we want to,
Get a vote to allow me to get the third-party review going.
that would be very helpful, yes.
That's important. So it's just a authorization to allow the agent to contract for a third-party review.
I'll entertain a motion to.
Can I ask the scope of that review only because
No
planning
engineering.
board?
No
Okay,
engineering.
good, because I don't want to double.
Just
Double
the
Okay.
wetland-related regulations and.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize a third-party review at 51 West Main Street. And do I need to read the numbers?
Nope. That's all I need. Just need a second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a date that we'd?
It's next meeting, June 20th. I'm sorry.
No,
No, sorry,
there.
that was for, I have 5 dates here. May 16th
To continue.
at 7:10.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue.
Do you, I know you said that you don't do a site view in advance of getting the peer review. Do you anticipate that you'll have peer review done by May 16th?
Or at least enough.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be 200% done,
Mhm.
but I think it's important to say if there's any huge outlying issues, it's important for the commission to know about that before they go to the sidewalk.
And the third-party reviewer probably is gonna wanna do a sidewalk too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, so.
Yeah. We're also missing 3 commissioners.
Oh.
I'd love to get them
Yeah.
to commit to the sidewalk also.
Mm-hmm.
So I am inclined not to pick a date tonight, just given those 2 things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's
do
kind of standard.
we want to continue it to May or to June?
I think May 16th.
Yeah, and then we'll
If
see
we're
how
not
it
ready,
goes.
we can always, they can request a continuation, but I think it's better to keep it on a monthly schedule, just, so if we are ready, we don't lose a month.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue 51 West Main Street to May 16th at,
A second?
To make the motion.
she has to make that.
So I'll make a motion to continue 51 West Main Street to May 16th at 7:10 PM.
Now I second.
Perfect.
All approved?
Aye.
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 Perfect.
Motion carries.
Natural.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
folks.
Thanks.
Mike, can you send a full packet to
Yep.
Jillian, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. And that's all I have. If you guys are inclined to make a motion to close the meeting.
To make a motion that we close the meeting of 2019.
I second.
All approved?
Aye.
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 Good job,
Motion
Rachel.
carries.
Thank you, guys.